Pokemon, a game that lets you catch all manner of adorable critters and then pit them against each other in a bloody battle to the death. I myself have been playing Pokemon for ages, but there's something about the games that has always felt a little weird to me. You know how every generation always has like a legendary Pokemon that is iconic to the specific game you're playing? Like an all-powerful, artificially created Pokemon, the god of space, a big-ass bird. And at some point in the games, you inevitably face off against said legendary Pokemon. You, as the only one powerful enough to stand up to it. But that's where it gets a little anticlimactic, in my opinion. Because they're really not all that strong. I just feel like my big green turtle shouldn't be able to butcher the deity of time itself with a single, "Oh no, the screen is slightly shaking." So that's what we're dealing with today. How can we turn these incredible Pokemon into the true deities that they really are? Well, I've got a very simple two-step solution right here. Basically what I was thinking might be a cool way to maybe incorporate the Pokemon's powers a little more, might be through their abilities. You see, Palkia being the creator of space is awesome, but the only way that this is shown in the games is by giving it one attack that has a name with space in it. I'm focusing too much on the Sinnoh Legendaries, but you get the point. So the aim is to incorporate the Pokemon's powers that are mentioned in their respective lore into the games via abilities. How do we do that? The first step to solving this problem is figuring out a little more about these legendary Pokemon. Like, what kind of powers they're supposed to have, how they stand in relation to one another. Some of them are quite straightforward, like the god of the sea, the god of all creation, sword. Others are a little more complicated though, and we still need to figure out who is whose ancestor or creator or whatnot. So I made this diagram. There was just one thing that I failed to consider before making this. None of this lore works together at all. It's about as well structured as the Legend of Zelda timeline. Like, every region has its own lore that makes somewhat sense in and of itself, but only if that region is the only region in the world. But it's obviously not. So let's go through this. According to the Sinnoh lore, Arceus was the first Pokemon to ever exist. Not Mew. Fuck Mew. All my homies hate Mew. It apparently hatched from an egg that was just there, so then it made 3 more eggs, out of which Palkia, Dialga and Giratina hatched. So they're immediately under Arceus as the deities of space, time and some sort of mirror of the actual world? Apparently the correct term here is antimatter. And then Giratina was kinda bratty and it was banished and that's that. And then there was a 4th egg, out of which all the lake Pokemon hatched. All of them. Out of 1 egg. Explain that one, science. So apparently the lake Pokemon, Yuxi, Mesprit and Azelf, who represent the different aspects of the human mind, are a little stronger than we give them credit for. So I put them right under Arceus as well. And now we have an issue. Because this is kinda where Sinnoh lore ends, and like I said, the lore is not really coherent between different regions. So I'm actually gonna jump a bit and continue with Kalos lore, Gen 6. It's not explicitly stated where Xerneas and Yveltal came from, but it's pretty clearly stated what they do. Xerneas gives life, Yveltal takes it. They kind of represent the circle of life. So I figured, okay, that's pretty strong, right? And I couldn't simply put them under time or space because life needs both. So I figured they actually deserve a pretty high spot in there. But then there's also Zygarde, which kind of balances them both. Okay, so Zygarde is responsible for the entire ecosystem, and it's balancing Xerneas and Yveltal, who are life and death. Okay, it's getting a little complicated, but so far I can keep track of all of this. So we've got Gen 4 and Gen 6 down. Let's jump to Gen 3. The Hoenn Legendaries are the deities of land, sea and sky respectively. And this one was the easiest choice of the entire thing. There's space. They're different parts of space, so they're directly under Palkia. That makes sense, right? Something that was relatively easy as well was Gen 7, Sun and Moon. Lunala and Solgaleo represent the moon and the sun. At first I was like, okay, is it like the physical sun and moon? But the difference in power would be so enormous that I just put them as night and day, and that means directly under Dialga in the time column. There was like a little complication here as well, because Sinnoh kind of already introduced Cresselia as the Pokemon of the moon, and then Lunala kind of came along and was like, f that guy. But I sorted it out by putting Cresselia as like the sleep aspect of the night, directly under Lunala. I think that works, right? But then there's also this app, Necrozma. So basically Necrozma represents like light energy, and it takes that from Lunala and Solgaleo. So according to lore, it basically filled the different Ultra dimensions with light. It's kind of the deity of Ultra space and different dimensions. That kind of puts it under Palkia, right? Because it's like an aspect of space, but somehow that still feels a little, I don't know. But it's the closest I could get. Unfortunately, it only gets harder from here on out. The next one we're looking at is Gen 5, Reshiram, Zekrom and Kyurem. So far, most of the Pokemon have been representatives of something physical, something in the real world. Reshiram and Zekrom are not like that. Reshiram stands for the truth, and Zekrom stands for dreams. Like, metaphorical ones, not the ones where your pants fall down in front of your crush and the entire school. Sorting them in wasn't too hard, but it felt kinda weird. I put Reshiram directly under Yuxi, which stands for knowledge, and Zekrom under Mesprit, which stands for emotion. It just felt weird putting these incredibly powerful dragons under those little psychic blobs. But regarding their respective domains, it just felt appropriate. Oh, and I put Kyurem under Zekrom, but it's technically just the empty shell of the combination of Zekrom and Reshiram, so it just kind of hovers over there, I guess. Gen 1. Mew and Mewtwo. Mew is supposedly the first Pokemon, so if it is the ancestor of like all non-legendary Pokemon, I just put it under Xerneas. You know, life, evolution. And then I put Mewtwo under Mew as a sort of representation of science and genetics and stuff. So, let's get to the newest iteration of Legendaries. Sword Dog, Shield Dog, and their friend, Alien Snake. That one was a bit of a reach, I will admit. So obviously I don't have a category for Deity of Sword and Deity of Shield. Zacian and Zamazenta, according to lore, were brave heroes who saved the Galar region. So I had the two of them represent heroism, and I put them under a Zelf, which is willpower. I think that makes sense. The bigger problem is Eternatus. So it's kind of like an alien Pokemon that caused Dynamaxing. But here's the issue. Just like with Necrozma, they were kind of like, it comes from a different planet, dimension, something? So it's totally from outside of the game and different. Except that if Arceus created the entire universe as it canonically did, it totally isn't. So Eternatus being from a different planet is actually completely irrelevant here. I was at a complete loss, and in the end I just put it under Giratina, because it kind of fit with the whole distortion thing. Like, suddenly growing in size feels like a distortion in reality, I'd say. And I really didn't have anywhere else to put it, I'll be honest. So that's all of them, right? Everyone here? Oh, wait. Ho-Oh and Lugia. Canonically the Pokemon of... nothing. Nothing specific at all. Just big, strong birds. Great. Apparently Ho-Oh can resurrect Pokemon, but like, it only revived the Doggo trio, and even then the details are a little foggy at best. And Lugia's lore is that it can clap its wings and then wind go whee, like every other wind Pokemon. I at some point read that apparently they're the guardians of the sea and the sky, but like, we have Kyogre and Rayquaza. Do we put them under there? Does Ho-Oh go under Xerneas because it can resurrect? And they both have their respective trios as well. In the end, I put them just somewhere under there, because it's really not that clear what their role is. I think at the end of the day, they're just two really powerful Pokemon, and that's kind of it. And we're still not done. There's still a few ones to go through, so let's just do this real quick. Regigigas and the Regiboys. They move the continents, they're under Groudon. Easy. Manaphy, Seafaring. Kyogre. Celebi can travel through time, that is definitely under Dialga. Darkrai causes nightmares, so I put it under Cresselia. Shaman stands for flowers, so that's under Xerneas. And then there's Hiraki. Hiraki can fulfill wishes, which is a super powerful ability, but it mostly just sleeps all the time. Hashtag relatable, am I right? So I actually put it directly under Arceus, because that's a power that kind of transcends everything else. That little thing is actually super powerful. So that's all of them, I think. Hope? What are we here for again? Oh, right. Turning them into actual gods. So that's step 2. By the way, quick little side note. While researching this, I found this really funny, but also super concerning sentence. It was about Arceus creating Palkia, Dialga, and Giratina. And it basically just said, Arceus has the power to recreate any of these Pokemon if anything were to happen to the original ones. If anything were to happen. Man, that's menacing as fuck. So now it's time to put our newfound knowledge to good use. All we have to do is just figure out abilities for every single one of these Pokemon. I really do not want to be a game designer. So we're obviously not going into every single legendary Pokemon. You can do that at home if you want, I'll leave you the mind map in the description. But we're gonna look at a few and think of some fun things to make trainers' lives a living hell. Now, I can't playtest any of these, so they might be either like way too powerful or just simply not as powerful as I thought they would be. But here's some ideas that I had. For Dialga, Dialga's abilities are either pressure or telepathy. None of that has to do with time. They're not even good. What about an ability quite literally called Ruler of Time? My first idea here was that it could make it so that Dialga's attacks always hit first, even if it's significantly slower than its opponent. Cause for a Ruler of Time, Dialga's initiative is not great. Palkia. Very similar to Dialga, kind of like a space equivalent. Like, all of Palkia's attacks hit. Always. Probably shouldn't let it have any one-hit KO attacks. Giratina would have to have an ability that mirrors something and kind of distorts it. Maybe like, your opponent's physical attacks use their special attack stat, and their special attacks use their physical attack stat. You'd really have to restructure your entire team to get like any damage in. Xerneas and Yveltal could simply have an ability that like constantly heals them or damages their opponents, instead of like these weird aura things. And they'd perfectly cancel each other out if they face off. That's kind of the thing, right? Groudon and Kyogre's original abilities are kinda like Make Sun and Make Rain, which is kind of pathetic for a legendary Pokemon. But in their proto forms, which are the forms introduced in the remakes, which are kind of like Mega Evolution, they have really interesting abilities. Groudon also blocks direct water attacks and Kyogre blocks direct fire attacks, which is really cool. Except that Groudon definitely benefits more from blocking a super effective hit than Kyogre benefits from blocking something that barely would have done any damage anyways. And then there's Eternatus, which in lore can just turn Pokemon gigantic and have them frantically attack cities and people. And its battle ability is, well, you use a little more PP while battling. It increased the PP. Also, it stops you from Dynamaxing, I guess. But yeah, f that. How about this? Eternatus doesn't fight you one-on-one anymore. It actually calls in other Pokemon to help. And then its ability would allow them to Dynamax, even though theoretically only one Pokemon should be able to Dynamax at a time. And then once it reaches its Eternamax form, it could like consume the Dynamax energy that it gave its partner Pokemon, and then heal itself. It would be like a 3-phase boss fight. Phase 1 would just be like a normal battle. Phase 2, it would call for help, and then, let the help Dynamax. And then in Phase 3, it would be Eternamaxed, and it would be able to heal itself from its partner Pokemon. I think that'd be cool. And at the end of it all, if Eternatus is already a 3-phase boss fight, then my god, literally, what is Arceus? It would have like an amalgamation of all the Legendaries' abilities. Like, its attacks always hit, it always attacks first, and, as a little adaptation of Giratina's ability, whenever you attack it, your physical and special attack stats get swapped. So you have to alternate between physical and special moves, or just have a Pokemon with balanced attack and special attack. And that would be like the first phase. Then in the second phase, it could also get the abilities from like Xerneas and Yveltal and heal itself while damaging your Pokemon every turn. And then in the third phase, I don't know, maybe it like shoots lasers at the end of every third turn or something. The point is, an encounter with Arceus should be super hard and only occur at like the very end of a game. Because it should be like, hey child, you see these 1000 hands that I canonically have? You're about to, as the kids say, catch every single one of them. Gotta catch 'em all, am I right? Anyway, that's it for my ideas for new abilities for legendary Pokemon. I feel like I spent significantly more time on sorting them all than I did actually making new abilities, but what can you do? It's for science. So anyway, if you have any more ideas on how to turn your favorite legendary Pokemon into a f***ing monster that'll completely rip apart anything you put in its path, definitely let me know in the comments. By the way, maybe we should cut out the whole catching God in a little ball thing. Don't know how I feel about having a 10-year-old run around with an entire pantheon of gods in their pockets. Anyone else? Just me?